What's going on, everybody? And welcome to yet another episode of the Savvy Sports Podcast. My name is Jaime Nazario, and I hope that everybody's having a fantastic Thursday. Today's Thursday, January 12th. And I'm going to start, opening up my shows that way with the date and who I am and all that because I'm still learning and we're still doing great. In today's show, we're going to get into the WWE a little bit because there's some news percolating coming with Vince McMahon and everything that he's got going on. Stephanie McMahon apparently resigned. So let's just jump right into it. First things first, Vince McMahon, as I said on Monday's show, is back. He has returned. He is on the business side of WWE, apparently to facilitate a sale with the company or make a TV deal a little bit easier for the company. Now, there has been rumors speculating about the WWE being sold to Saudi Arabia, going private as a company, and I don't like any of it. I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't like any of it. I'm not excited about any of the things going on with the WWE. Vince McMahon, you, sir, are in your 80s. It is time. It is time, Vince. Let this all go. I mean, it is quite ridiculous the fact that your own daughter, your flesh and blood, quits the company. I understand that they use the word resign. At the end of the day, Stephanie left the WWE. She was the face of the company as it pertains to media, press. She was very involved in the branding of the show and getting the word out to the ESPNs of the world, Fox, and all that. Stephanie McMahon was the face. Let's be honest here. And the fact that she has walked away from the wrestling business and from the WWE is not a good look for Vince. It is not. Because, like I said, your own daughter disapproves of the idea of you coming back to such a degree that she decides to walk away from the company. It is completely outrageous. It is a disgrace, in my opinion. Vince McMahon just needs to step down and let the powers that be, Triple H, Stephanie, Nick Khan, the whole crew, let them just run the company. This is what you set up, sir. You set up a foundation for this company to be ran long after you are gone. And right now, apparently WWE had reached a verbal agreement with Saudi Arabia to be sold to become a private company as opposed to a publicly traded company, which they have been for many, many years at this point. It is at an impasse, if you will. The terms have not been, what's the correct terminology that I'm looking for here? They have not been contractually agreed to. But it is a verbal agreement that the WWE is being sold. Why? Why? Like, there is no need for Vince to continue to be in power. There's absolutely no need for Vince to be in power anymore. Triple H has done a magnificent job of running the creative side of things. Like I said on Monday, I am absolutely enjoying the bloodline. I am absolutely enjoying everything going on as it pertains to Kevin Owens and him bringing John Cena back. I am enjoying all of that. I am a professional wrestling fan. And I enjoy when stories make sense and I can see clearly where you are going. And in the process of that, you helping me as a fan get lost in the story. That is what every fan wants. And if many of you remember, the problem with WWE was that a lot of the storylines that were being booked would just fall apart. They would just fall apart. They would go nowhere. Vince would change his mind. He wanted Paul Heyman to book, change his mind. He wanted Bischoff to book, change his mind. It was a mess. And it is time to let go. Retire, sir. Retire. Your time is done. And quite frankly, what this is doing is this is making you, sir, look bad on your way out, on your way to retirement. You just seem like a person that just cannot let go. And it is time. But with all these news percolating about the WWE, the potential sale to Saudi Arabia, the company going private, what does that mean? Are companies not going to like them, the WWE anymore per se, because they're linking with Saudi Arabia? Again, you guys have to remember, and not that I know too much about it, but from what I do know, there were golfers that were in the PGA, and Live Golf was started by the Saudi Arabian government. Live Golf cannot even get on TV because they're linked to Saudi Arabia, owned by Saudi Arabia. What happens with the WWE then? Is Fox going to terminate their relationship with the WWE? Is USA going to do the same? Is Vince going to remain in power to facilitate these kinds of things? We don't know yet, but it's all starting to go downhill very quickly. Very quickly, it's starting to go downhill. And quite frankly, this is the very last thing that we want, is for things to go downhill, because at the end of the day, the more wrestling there is, the better it is for everybody. The better it is for everybody as professional wrestling fans. So that was my spiel about Vince McMahon. In other news, we move to the NBA now. I was just talking about the Brooklyn Nets and how good they have looked under Jacques Vaughn, KD being a potential MVP candidate. We have Kyrie Irving playing for a contract, and he's been balling, let's be honest. Ben Simmons has been up and down, but as expected, the guy hadn't played professional basketball for 2 years. He's coming back. He had, I believe it was lower back surgery, if I'm not mistaken. We got a lot of pieces that are learning to play together. We still have Seth Curry coming in and out of the lineup. TJ Warren is a new piece. Royce O'Neal is a new piece. Nick Claxton, whether or not he's going to be that center, that big boy in the middle that these guys need right now. This team seemed to be clicking on all cylinders. Their defense has vastly improved, especially from last year. Their offense, they seem to be gelling now, especially, like I said, with Kyrie. Kyrie missed a whole bunch of games last season because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because of taking time off and all that. And now he is back, and it seems like the team is gelling, and Kevin Durant goes down. According to ESPN, Kevin Durant suffered an MCL sprain. And after looking it up, it looks like that could take about 6 weeks to heal, which means that the Brooklyn Nets are probably going to go from now till March, without Kevin Durant. And in that span, they have 2 games against the Celtics. They have a game against the Thunder, a game against the Spurs, Suns, Jazz, Golden State Warriors, Philly. I think they faced Philly twice or 3 times. They faced the New York Knicks, who, by the way, the New York Knicks are looking solid. They look like the New York Knicks of 2 years ago, a team you don't want to see because they're sturdy defensively. They don't just let up. They fight for every game. The New York Knicks of 2 years ago. This team, but with a much better point guard in Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's playing his tail off. And you have a few games in there, Chicago twice, Atlanta, Milwaukee, the Clippers, Phoenix. You have all these games. Actually, they play Phoenix twice in this stretch before March. These are pivotal games, especially with All-Star looming. And it feels like for the last 3 years, it just seems like Kevin Durant just gets hurt around All-Star weekend. I don't know if there's anything to that. I hope not. But nothing but a speedy recovery for Kevin Durant. We hope that this MCL doesn't turn out to be anything worse. We hope that it's just some time off for the All-Star superstar to just heal up before the playoffs come around, and for him to just get healthy. Because Kevin Durant, let's be honest, an Achilles tear is not the easiest thing to come back from. We have seen a lot of athletes throughout sports history go down with Achilles tears, even MCLs, ACLs, and they just have not looked the same. I mean, Everybody thought that Odell Beckham Jr. was done. Now he went to the Los Angeles Rams and proved everybody wrong. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't an Achilles that took down Odell. But regardless, it was leg knee issues. And he came back and he balled. But for those 2 years in Cleveland, everybody thought he was done because he just didn't look the same. And so what we want is for Kevin Durant to be healthy and for good basketball to continue happening. Because, again, I have the Brooklyn Nets going to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that would be a matchup. Kyrie, KD, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Joe Harris going up against these young thoroughbreds, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, the team he used to play for, Darius Garland, and let me not forget Spider Mitchell. Spider Mitchell is balling. The Cleveland Cavaliers, ladies and gentlemen, were in the play-in tournament last year. And Donovan Mitchell took the Cleveland Cavaliers from a play-in team to a potential championship match caliber team. I'm telling everybody right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers this year are going to the NBA Finals. Y'all better ask somebody. The Cleveland Cavaliers are going to the NBA Finals this year. Golden State's also going. I have Golden State, I have Cleveland in the NBA Finals for the 2022-2023 season. And it is going to be a drag-out brawl in the Eastern Conference, in the Western Conference. I'm iffy on Golden State because Steph Curry went down, and it just seemed like that team took some time to get those chemistry issues together. Steph Curry came back, and they lost to Phoenix, who was recently on a six-game losing streak. But again, that was Steph Curry's first game back. We're just going to gloss over it for right now. I'm not worried about Golden State. I believe that they will get everything together. They added a lot of new pieces. Dante DiVincenzo. They added JaMychal Green to that team. It just feels like Clay is still getting back into form. It feels like Draymond Green, because this is a contract year for Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors don't know what they're going to do with him because, of course, a player like Draymond Green, he's not going to take a heavy pay cut to stay with that team. There's talks of him going to the Lakers. There's talks of other teams wanting to sign Draymond Green. I know that I would like to see Draymond Green in Portland play next to Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons. And that brings me to Portland. Ladies and gentlemen, it is rant time. We have to talk about Portland. Because what the heck happened to Portland? It wasn't too long ago that, if I'm not mistaken, Portland was like 13-6 in the regular season as the number one seed in the Western Conference. And they have plummeted. I'm talking about downhill. I think that it is time for us to start talking. I've been talking about Jusuf Nurkic being a liability. The dude barely plays defense. He's not a rebounding machine. He's averaging 8 rebounds right now. Trade Jusuf Nurkic. Jusuf Nurkic stinks. I'm not going to say he's as bad as Kwame Brown. Jusuf Nurkic once a month can give you 30 and 15. But once a month is not going to cut it with a player like Damian Lillard, with a player like Jeremy Grant, with an up-and-coming young star like Anthony Simons. Jusuf Nurkic has got to go. He stinks. I could give you 10 centers off the top of my head that play better than Jusuf Nurkic. I mean, and I'm not even talking superstars. I'm talking guys like Steven Adams, guys like Jonas Valanciunas, guys like Nerlens Noel, who's a rebounder and a shot blocker, guys like Mitchell Robinson, who just got paid this year. Even Rudy Gobert up in Minnesota is playing much better than Jusuf Nurkic, and it feels like Rudy Gobert's been an afterthought since going to Minnesota. Jusuf Nurkic has got to go. There's no two ways about it. Overpaid, not enough production to help out Damian Lillard. Portland, don't you want to keep Damian Lillard? Don't you want to continue the grind? What the hell are you doing? You've got to get rid of Jusuf Nurkic yesterday. Got to go. Got to go. I can't even stand seeing Nurkic play basketball because it just feels like at times he knows what he's doing, and then it feels like at times he's just completely out in space, a complete liability. Jusuf Nurkic is what's holding this team down. He's got the Andre Drummond effect. The Chicago Bulls at one point last year were the number one seed, and let's get into Andre Drummond a little bit. The Chicago Bulls at some point last season were the one seed. You add Andre Drummond, and what has happened to every team that has added Andre Drummond? They have gotten worse. You look at the Lakers, they got worse. You look at the Nets, they were worse. You look at the Chicago Bulls this season, they were worse. Andre Drummond's another one of those players. But Jusuf Nurkic, he's got to go. I'd trade him away for a cupcake. And not even a good one. To hell with Jusuf Nurkic. Let's get into the next topic, man. Because Damian Lillard's one of my favorite players in the NBA today. He truly is. I love seeing Damian Lillard do this clutch. He's got moxie. He'll talk his talk. He's a good rapper, at least in my opinion, he's a good rapper. But the dude produces on the court. You have Damian Lillard. You have a sniper. You have a guy that's going to work for it. Damian Lillard shows up. Even though he's missed 10 games this season, when Damian Lillard's on the court, you're always going to have a chance to win. And it just feels like something is holding this team down, and I am pointing out what is holding this team down. I'm going to say it one final time. Jusuf Nurkic has to be traded this season from the Portland Trail Blazers. That is a fact. He has to go. He's got to go. Speaking of teams that are terrible, we got the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes this year, ladies and gentlemen. Victor Wembanyama, for those of you who don't know, is a French player. Dude is 7'5". Victor Wembanyama, 7'5", has a handle, has a J. He's a shot blocker. He can rebound. What can't Victor Wembanyama do? He's Kevin Durant. He's got Kevin Durant's ceiling, but he's also half a foot taller than KD. He's gonna be different. And I'm talking about Paolo Banchero being special. Paolo Banchero is 6'10", and I would dare say that Paolo Banchero does not have the ceiling that Wembanyama does. 7'5". Ladies and gentlemen, I said at 6'7". This guy is a foot taller than I am. Damn near. And right now, the four worst teams in the NBA are the San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets, the Detroit Pistons, and the Charlotte Hornets. So with that being said, where should Wemby go? I believe that the team best suited for Victor Wembanyama at this moment is either Detroit or Charlotte. I believe that Victor Wembanyama ends up in the Eastern Conference regardless. That's what I believe. Now, I'm probably going to be wrong because of how the draft lottery works in the NBA, but I believe that he is going to end up in the Eastern Conference. And could you imagine Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham, you have a sniper in Sadiq Bey, and you add Victor Wembanyama to that Detroit Pistons squad of this year? They make the playoffs. If the Detroit Pistons manage to get their second number one overall pick within 3 years, the Pistons are going to the playoffs next year. If the Charlotte Hornets manage to get their hands on Wembanyama, LaMelo Ball is going to have the best teammate that he's ever played with. Okay? Because you best believe that Victor Wembanyama and LaMelo Ball, them two are going to be special together. With the way LaMelo passes the ball, the way he can create offense, you could add any other three guys. Wembanyama and LaMelo together on Charlotte, Michael Jordan is going to have himself a tandem. Then you have the San Antonio Spurs. I don't want to see Wembanyama on the Spurs. That Spurs team, I don't know what is going on with the Spurs. It just feels like they keep bringing in power forward after power forward, hoping to find the next Tim Duncan or somebody. I don't want to see him on the Spurs. I truly don't. And that leaves the Houston Rockets. Now, the Houston Rockets have a young unit, Jalen Green, Kenyon Martin Jr. They just signed Kevin Porter Jr. to a contract extension. And there's talks of James Harden wanting to go back to Houston. Now, I don't know if this is just a play by James Harden to elevate his deal from Philly or from other teams. But what I can tell you is that James Harden is talking about going back to Houston. And I can see it happening. The problem with James Harden is James Harden is averaging 22 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 11 assists at the moment. So he can clearly distribute the rock. I think he's second or third in assists at this point. I think the last stat that I saw was Tyrese Halliburton and Trae Young are averaging more assists than James Harden right now. But James Harden is still a $25 to $30 million player a year. He's still arguably an all-star. I mean, not too many guys in the NBA right now are averaging 22, 6, and 10. Or 6 and 11, excuse me. I know Tyrese Halliburton is averaging 20 and 10 amongst the point guards, and I haven't taken a look at Trae Young's stats quite yet, but I think he's averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 and 9, 25 and 10 around there as well. But James Harden, like I said, is still an all-star caliber player. I genuinely don't know where Wembanyama goes. I hope that he goes somewhere that has a young coaching staff. Like I said on Monday about the Pistons, Dwayne Casey is just not the answer at this point. I believe, and especially when you look at the young coaches that are ascending in the NBA, Willie Green with Houston, Taylor Jenkins with Memphis. You have, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. I have the team. You have the Kings with Mike Brown, and there's one more young coach. Oh, geez. I can't believe that I'm forgetting this right now. Jack Vaughn is in Brooklyn. But my point is you need a young coach with a player like that, because a young coach, especially because Dwayne Casey, I believe, has been there for about 5 years already. I know that this is a new group of guys than the guys that he inherited from Stan Van Gundy, because when Dwayne Casey took that job, there was Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson was on that team, Luke Kennard was on that team. This is a completely different group of Detroit Pistons. But I'm telling you right now, if the Detroit Pistons manage to somehow get the number 1 overall pick and you get Victor Wembanyama, that crew is going to be special. They're pretty good already. I keep telling y'all, Jaden Ivey, there's just something special about him. The kid just plays with heart. He can score the bucket. He's an ISO kind of player. Once he developed those point guard skills so that you can pair him next to a Cade Cunningham with a Sadiq Bey, with an Isaiah Stewart, with a Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey is going to be one of the top 10 players in the NBA in about 2 to 3 years. I'm calling it now, because that's how special I think he is as a player. He's everything that we thought Jalen Suggs was going to be coming out of, where did Jalen Suggs come? Gonzaga, I think it was. But he's everything that we thought Suggs was going to be, but more, because he's still not a developed product yet. And that's why you need a young coach up in there, because you need a young coach that's going to implement a system where these guys can develop with that coach. Speaking of James Harden, going back to that, James Harden is going to be a free agent this year. He's probably going to opt out of that Philly deal that they got him, where they got him on a 1+1. It was a 2-year, 85. 2 years over 85, I believe it was. and or was it 2 years over 65? I know it was a 2 year, and he's making about 30 million this year. He's going to opt out of that contract. And where does James Harden go? That's an excellent question. Where does James Harden go at that point? Philly can re-sign him. If Kyrie leaves, that opens the door for James Harden to go play with KD again in Philly. That's a possibility because Kyrie, we still don't know if he wants to stay in Brooklyn with KD, join the Lakers with LeBron and AD. We don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to do. So if Kyrie Irving leaves Brooklyn, I believe that James Harden steps back into Brooklyn to replace Kyrie. I'm going to throw two sleepers out there. I got the New York Knicks as a sleeper for James Harden, and I have Boston as a sleeper for James Harden. Now, I know, Boston is constricted because they have a very good unit, well-rounded, where they play together, and that team is very well built. But the Knicks, who have been starving for a superstar, if you could bring in James Harden to play in New York City, think about it. They got the cap space. Think about it. I'm sorry, my voice is still gone from going off on Jusuf Nurkic, but man. So I want to end today's show talking about a little bit of football, right? And I didn't write down any notes about football today. I'm going to just wing it a little bit as it pertains to this part of the show because I don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. We have to talk about a team that's not even in the playoffs, and it is sad to see, but the Green Bay Packers are not in the playoffs, and I don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to go. I think San Francisco should take a look at trading for him, especially San Francisco. I think that the Vikings should trade Kirk Cousins and maybe some picks to get their hands on Aaron Rodgers. You pair Aaron Rodgers with TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. My Lord, what a team that's going to be. And Dalvin Cook. Let me not forget Dalvin Cook. You have a solid, a very good wide receiver, arguably top 5, arguably top 3, as a matter of fact, because there's not too many wide receivers that are better than Justin Jefferson. You have a very good running back in Dalvin Cook. You have a good tight end in TJ Hawkinson. I believe Aaron Rodgers should go the Brett Favre route and look at joining the Minnesota Vikings. So you got those two teams. Hey, the Raiders. The Raiders are apparently looking at Tom Brady to come in. What about Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers ain't 45. Aaron Rodgers still has a few years left to play. And you have Devontae Adams, you could pair them back up again. You still have Darren Waller. You have a very solid unit on the Raiders. Now, you got to get rid of Mike McDaniels, or Josh McDaniels, excuse me. Mike McDaniels is down in Miami. But you got to get rid of Josh McDaniels because I don't believe that Josh McDaniels is that answer either, right? The game of football is a game of coaching. And I don't know if Josh McDaniels is suited to be a head coach for a team that had aspirations to make it to the playoffs. The Raiders didn't even make it to the dance with that roster. Now, a lot of that falls back on Derek Carr because Derek Carr stinks as well. But who knows? But those are the three teams. I believe it's going to be San Francisco, Minnesota, the Raiders. Hell, listen, if I'm the New York Jets, I'm calling for Aaron Rodgers as well. Because the New York Jets, it feels like this year especially, they're just a quarterback away. Especially with the whole Wilson situation, and they had to bring in Mike White, and Mike White ends up not panning out, and Zach Wilson doesn't end up panning out. If I'm the New York Jets, I'm calling for Aaron Rodgers because why not? You're the secondary team in New York behind the Giants who made the playoffs this year, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, and they have a chance to win. The New York Giants have a chance to win. But the New York Jets, who were on a hot streak this year after years of mediocrity, Robert Saleh has done an amazing job. You bring in a superstar like Aaron Rodgers to that team, all hell breaks loose at that point. All hell breaks loose at that point. And you have him competing against Josh Allen. Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers matchups, please. Can I get 2 of those a year, maybe 3 a year, please, for me? Thank you. And also, let's go back to the matchups. If he goes to the Raiders, you have Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes twice a year. Can y'all imagine Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes 2 to 3 times a year? Oh, football would be so good to watch. And if you send them to the Los Angeles Rams, or not to the Rams, excuse me, to the San Francisco 49ers, I guess you got Aaron Rodgers versus Kyler Murray. It's an easier division, which is what he's been used to in the NFC North up until this year. It felt like the Packers were very dominant, but Matt LaFleur's not the answer either. And you also have the Raiders and the Jets, I believe, and the Vikings. But like I said, he would stay in the NFC North, the division he's dominated. The Vikings just won the NFC North. You trade out Kirk Cousins, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, and you all of a sudden have a Super Bowl winning squad. Because like I said, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Minnesota Vikings, they are going to be a shoo-in for the NFC North at least for the next 3 years. A shoo-in for the NFC North. Because the Bears stink. They have the number 1 overall draft pick. Let's just face it, the Bears suck. There's no 2 ways about it. Even with this number 1 overall draft pick, people are already talking about trading Justin Fields. How's that working out for you? The Green Bay Packers without Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what kind of squad they're going to be. And then you have the Lions, who are a scrappy team. They fight for it. They beat the Packers this season. They actually went positive for once. The Jets and the Lions have been the best stories in the NFL. But you add Aaron Rodgers to a playoff squad, to an elite wide receiver, to an elite running back, to a very good to great tight end. You unlock Aaron Rodgers at that point because you've got a guy who you could throw it up and say, hey, go get it in Justin Jefferson. You've got a guy who you can hand the football off to and say, hey, run through him in Dalvin Cook. So a lot to be desired for this NFL season, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the playoffs too. The playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, start this week. Let me look that up, actually. I believe that the NFL playoffs start this week. Yep, they start this week. So on Saturday, we have the wild cards. We have two wild card games on Saturday. We have the Chargers and the Jaguars, and then we have the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers. I think that the 49ers honestly stomp out the Seahawks. I don't see the Seahawks making it past them, especially with the beatdown that the 49ers just put on the Seahawks. Seahawks get sent home, and the Chargers and Jaguars game, that's actually going to be very, very interesting because both teams have a young, good quarterback. Both teams are scrappy. Both teams just got head coaches. What is the Jaguars head coach? He won a championship in Philly. Doug Peterson. I almost forgot his name. Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning head coach. And then you have the Chargers head coach who could lose his job this year. If the Chargers lose this game, the Los Angeles Chargers head coach will not be there next year. They're calling Sean Payton. They're calling somebody else, but he's not going to be there next season. I guarantee you that much. Then on Sunday, you have 3 playoff games. You have the Miami Dolphins going to Orchard Park to face the Buffalo Bills. You have the New York Football Giants traveling to Minnesota to see the Vikings. And then you have the Ravens going up against the Bengals. That Bills-Dolphins game, I've heard that Tua did not clear concussion protocol. I don't know how that game turns out because it depends on what kind of Dolphins squad shows up at that point, right? The Giants and the Vikings, all these games are honestly, all these games are pick'ems. All these games. The only game that's not a pick'em that's two guarantees are the 49ers beating the Seahawks and the Bengals beating the Ravens. Those are the only two that I will guarantee. Those games are done with. But the other four games in the wild card round, they're all pick'ems. You got the Dolphins and the Bills. It's not as lopsided as it seems. It may seem like the Bills can beat the brakes off the Dolphins, especially with Tua not playing. I don't know that. I don't know that. It seems like the Vikings are set to run away with the Giants. If the Vikings lose this game, Kirk Cousins is definitely out because he couldn't get the job done against the hapless, hurt New York Giants team. And you have the Cowboys and you have the Buccaneers, and this is the game where I have everything writing on it. It's Monday night, so that would mean that on Thursday, if the Cowboys lose, I get to poke fun at my boy Billy, who lives in Texas and is a Cowboys fan. And I'm just going to love to laugh at him that Tom Brady beat him yet again. If the Cowboys win, then y'all are going to see me melt down wearing a Cowboys shirt, and I'm not excited about it. Very much not. But that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. I'm very much looking forward to all this NBA action. Very much looking forward to all the NFL action that we have coming up. And what's going to happen with the WWE? Nobody knows yet. Nobody has clear-cut answers. But I'm still going to try to watch the product as much as I can because, like I said, I am a fan of professional wrestling. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I greatly do appreciate it. Hit the follow. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow if you're on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on, I don't have a Facebook page yet, but I'm going to work on that. And follow me on TikTok. I'm going to start uploading some content to TikTok as well. Hopefully at some point, I'm going to upload some content to TikTok. So follow me there as well. And I'll see you guys on Monday after 5 of these 6 NFL games have taken place. Have a fantastic night, guys. Thank you.